Hard to believe that this is episode 26. Half a year. Half a year, folks. This is the finale, the season finale of the 2023 season of the Goal Line Stand. I'm Michael Washington. Chris has joined us tonight. Last season finale, we got to bring hot takes back. And of course, Justin Arth, our QB, resident QB, is here as well. There's not a ton to talk about, but there's a ton to talk about all at the same time. Look at that. It doesn't happen very often, but it certainly does tonight. Super Bowl is in the books. The Kansas City Chiefs have come out on top after an overtime thriller against the San Francisco 49ers. A ton of storylines coming out of this one. Let's start first and foremost. Justin, how are you? And Chris, how are you guys doing? Let's just get that out of the way. Formalities real quick as well. So, Justin, we'll start with you.
Oh yeah, hey, I'm doing great. I mean, it was a great season, great football season. I mean, like I said in the last podcast, you can't doubt 15, right? But no, I mean, gearing up for Carolina Cobra season, extremely excited with that. Camp starts March 3rd, and we got the new merch over on A11performance.com, the QB Club, the Quarterback Club. That merch is now available for purchase, and it's some pretty good stuff, not going to lie. So you definitely go check that out over on A11performance.com/store. So, but no, pretty good stuff, and I'll pass it on to Chris. I'm doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Obviously, like people saw the announcement. I'm excited for this new opportunity, kind of build something from scratch. But it's one step in my journey to the NFL. So I just got to keep grinding, got to keep staying down, and eventually I'll be at that top with Roger Goodell. So I just got to start somewhere. But I'm really thankful, really excited, and that Super Bowl was amazing. That was probably the best Super Bowl in the last 10 years that I can remember. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm starting right off with a pretty big hot take right there. I mean, I'm not gonna dispute that it was a great Super Bowl by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. I think it was a very good Super Bowl across the board. I was just gonna ask what your favorite commercial was, Chris.
My favorite commercial was surprising people. It was the Steve Young and the NFL playbook change for like mental health commercial. I thought they did a really good job about, getting into schools, getting the word out, especially hearing from people who have gone through it at a high level. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, great message there for sure. Justin, what was your favorite one?
I guess call me surface level, but I love that State Farm Arnold Schwarzenegger one. Yeah, where you can't pronounce neighbor.
Neighbor.
That one, yeah.
That was a good one. I like the Dunk Kings commercial,
yes.
the Tom Brady one.
By the way, you can go buy those tracksuits. Duncan has them out for purchase.
They also created the an entire separate menu for that specific commercial as well, from what I understand. I just thought it was hilarious. I mean, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, anytime they're together, is great anyway. So
I like the AFL commercial. It wasn't the AFL one, but it was Albany Firebirds had like 4 players in a commercial. That was super cool.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were actually talking about the AFL commercial that didn't air. That was talked about a couple times. I don't know. It was a rumor that was circulating. It didn't come to fruition, but whatever.
You know how much money? Why would they spend that money to do a commercial? Like,
I just it is what it is. I mean, I wasn't expecting an AFL commercial by any means, but I just saw it circulating that there was going to be some kind of AFL. Anyways, for the NFL fans out there, AFL's Arena Football League is coming back this year. Anyways, now that we got that out of the way, the game. I mean, the way that I look at this game is, I'll be completely honest, and I'll start right off with a big statement here. I do not believe that the San Francisco 49ers could have done much different. I do not think that there was much different, much anything else that they could have changed that would have changed the outcome of this game, other than be more aggressive. That is probably the only thing that they didn't do, and that's more on a coaching end than I think it was on the players' end. Because I'll be completely honest with you, from my standpoint, the way that I looked at it I didn't have a dog in the fight. Like, I was rooting for San Francisco just because of Brock Purdy, but it's Patrick Mahomes on the other side, and the Kansas City Chiefs with Andy Reid. I do not believe, from one instance, from my standpoint as an objective viewer in this case, that San Francisco played a bad game, even in overtime. I do not think it was that bad. I just think the defense was worn out at that point in time. I think it was just too much, and Kansas City prepared for that. Whereas you see after the fact with some of the things that were said, San Francisco was not prepared for that. So that falls back onto the coaching side of things for me. I don't know how you perceived it, Krish. We'll start with you first from a San Francisco standpoint. But to me, I don't think that inside that 5 quarters of play that the players themselves really could have done too much different other than just hopefully better, more aggressive play calling.
I agree. I thought Steve Wilks called a really, really good game. I really did, for the first 3 quarters at least. But Mahomes, he found a way. That 4th and 1 play in overtime, that was a game-defining play for me. It was an RPO. He took it and he ran. That was next level stuff, and it was great to see that. But from the 49ers perspective, I felt like McCaffrey, averaging 3.2 yards per carry, like you can't be having that. But he still played a great game on the receiving end, and I wish they used him more. I really did. There was one particular play on 4th and 3. It was they were at the 8-yard line. They went for it. They made it. There was another play. It was 4th and 4, and they were at the 6-yard line, and they decided to kick a field goal instead. At that scenario, it was in overtime too. You could make the argument, dude, go for it there against Patrick Mahomes, and try to seal the game right then and there. But it's one of those things where it's like in the moment. They went for so many. They took a lot of risks, a lot of gambles, and a lot of them paid off. But when it really mattered in overtime, I really thought they should have went for that 4th and 4.
I'm a little bit surprised that you mentioned McCaffrey touching the ball more. He touched the ball 30 times.
30 times.
30 times. He ran the ball 22 times. He caught 8 passes. He went 80 for 80. He went for 160 total. So, they used him right about where they used them in general. That's part of the reason why. Justin, I don't know how you think about my thoughts, Chris's thoughts on that or whatnot, whether you agree with us. I saw a little bit of a smirk there, so I'm not sure if you agree with me on the coaching side or if you think I'm crazy, one or the other.
Well, so before I watched the All-22 film, I was more on your side here. But after watching the All-22 film, to kind of see outside of what the TV broadcast allows you to see, I think there were more issues, and here we go. Brock Purdy stan actually probably going to be a little critical. But I do think there was some sloppiness in Brock Purdy's footwork that caused him to be late on some throws and miss some throws that he typically makes with a great base. And then we've seen it all year. Brock Purdy doesn't necessarily push the ball downfield with deep shots if coverage is anywhere close to tight. And that could be anything from a lack of confidence in arm strength or just a lack of confidence in pulling that trigger and knowing that he's so great in the intermediate to deep game that he has guys coming open, the concepts work for him, things like that. So there were a couple times where I feel like he should have taken a shot down the field, similar to Patrick Mahomes hitting Mecole Hardman, for example, which again, if 31 just turns his head and locates the ball, that's probably an interceptable pass. But even on All-22 film, it looked a little different than what the broadcast looked like. Because on the broadcast, I'm like, why in the world would you throw that, Patrick? But then you look at it All-22 and you get a little bit wider view. It actually was a pretty good decision, even though he still had Kelsey or somebody. It might have been Rashee Rice or somebody coming. I think it was Kelsey on kind of like a deep out coming open in the mid of the field too. But no, overall though, I thought Kyle Shanahan coached a really good game. I know people want to go point to saying, okay, in the third quarter, you didn't run the football at all. But at the end of the day, 30 touches for Christian McCaffrey, how many more do you need to think you have to go win that football game? If you say Christian McCaffrey has 160 total yards and 30 touches, you're thinking you're winning that football game. Brock, I still think, especially in the first half, outplayed Patrick Mahomes. In the second half, I think that's where Steve Spagnuolo really kind of affected the game more. And one of the big kind of keys to this game was going to be for at least San Francisco's offense and Kansas City's defense, whoever really won first down was going to set up play calls and set up plays to be able to affect third down. And the Kansas City Chiefs defense is the best defense in third down pretty much in football. And especially in the third quarter, 5 drives, for 1 yard total on all of San Francisco's first down plays. That sets you up to obvious passing situations where, with the a little bit weird footwork that Brock was having in the game and kind of the chuck and duck moves that were kind of happening, I'm not going to say he was overfilled by the moment or overflowed by the moment, because I don't think he was at all. It was just a little bit of an uncharacteristic mechanic change that caused him to be late on some things and didn't make all the plays that you typically see out of him. But he still, I think, played a tremendous game. Now we talk about the overtime stuff. Everybody will talk about, oh, you should have kicked the ball to Kansas City, made them play first. And then you even talk about then, okay, if you do take it with analytics saying you got to take it, then be aggressive and play for 4 downs and things like that. So we can go into all that kind of stuff later. But no, I mean, I think San Francisco played a great game, but there were some issues that kind of steamrolled into the loss. But this one isn't on Brock Purdy. So being a little critical on him not taking deep shots is me saying Brock Purdy lost the game. He definitely did not.
I'm going to be a little bit of a Brock Purdy defender to your criticism, though, in a sense, because even I haven't watched the All 22 or whatever it's called yet, but I did notice that there was some footwork issues that were definitely taking place that caused him,
and it's making him just a hair late, and that's all it is.
But I do want to give credit where credit's due to Chris Jones.
Oh, of course,
because
let's a disruptor.
Let's be honest, Chris Jones with Kansas City probably should have been MVP of this game, but just because of the stat sheets doesn't show up, he doesn't get it, which obviously it's going to go to the quarterback if he has a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Purdy was 23 of 38, not a great percentage, but he was 255, 1 touchdown with an 89.3 rating, which, you've mentioned the thing. The thing that sticks out to me is the average for his receptions was 11.5 yards. And there was some that was, yards after catch yak or whatever. Controversially, Patrick Mahomes had a higher average at 7.2, but the receivers were only at 9.8.
Yeah.
So I feel that San Francisco does a wonderful job of working the middle of that field the way that they've done it all year.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm defending Purdy in this situation is Chris Jones obviously played a factor.
Yes.
But Kansas City's defense as a whole, kind of disrupts things on the back end in general. And when you do the middle of the field, you discussed it last week. When you play in the middle of that field in Kansas City's, it's the strength of that defense.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a large chunk of what San Francisco does out of it, and I feel like that what Purdy and San Francisco was still able to accomplish, even with that little bit of disruption, was still at a higher level than I think what we come to expect. Right? I don't think the moment was too big for Brock,
which I completely agree. Yeah,
but I do think his inexperience in the Super Bowl was shown compared to Patrick Mahomes's, where he's had that opportunity and been there. Not saying that Brock Purdy is on the same elite level as Mahomes is by any means, but you could see the difference in demeanor. Mahomes is like, I've been here. I know what I'm doing. Like,
he threw the third quarter interception, and everybody's thinking, "Oh, San Francisco's about to run away with this thing," and it's okay. Yeah, with 10-point comeback, we did it before.
Yeah, like it was like no problem.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I do want to mention for San Francisco side here that I think is going understated, and honestly, I'm surprised not more people are talking about it. The Dre Greenlaw injury.
No, well, yeah, that's what I was going to mention too.
Yeah,
but I didn't even do the defensive side.
Yeah, but the Dre Greenlaw injury was such a huge loss.
Yeah,
I think it probably played a bigger part than I think people realize. Just all you have to do is look at Travis Kelce in this situation.
I'm not even saying Travis Kelce, but when we talk about the Kansas City side offensively, like what really kind of steamrolled their offense. Obviously, I think the first play that kind of really galvanized the offense was that 3rd and 4 rush with Patrick in a crucial down, lowering the shoulder. That really kind of got everybody going. Like, you start steamrolling everybody, and you even see the sideline. They're jumping up like they won the Super Bowl already. You're down by 10 at that point.
Yep.
But no, I mean, I think from that point on, with Dre Greenlaw unfortunately getting hurt, that was a huge game changer because it forces Burks in the game to have an even more crucial role than what he plays as a rotational linebacker. And then the offensive adjustments that Kansas City had offensively to use motion away from Travis Kelce, or and sometimes to Travis Kelce. It was mostly away from Kelce to be able to create mismatches with Logan Ryan and Burks is what kind of created confusion and created openings for big plays. I mean, there was 4 in particular that I mentioned. I didn't get screen recordings or anything of it, but I mean, you talk about like in the third quarter with 9 minutes, 2 seconds left. If anybody goes back and watches it, they motioned Kelce across the field to gain leverage on Burke, the linebacker there. And then you see Ward, Chardavius Ward, I think that's his first name, plays what we call palms coverage. And so it's obviously like your cover 4, but you can break off and to any in breaking route, whatever. And so he ends up breaking on that, but there's enough room for Kelce to still take that out route. Well, then you mirror that same thing later in the third quarter on the next drive with 2:32 left in the third. They run the same look, but instead they run this kind of crosser go route, and you force the 4 solid safety to play that same kind of look, and it leaves the middle of the field open for Marcus Valdez-Scantling to score. And then you even pair that then with Isaiah Pacheco with that straight out route there from the back, and then they do it again with Justin Watson in the fourth quarter, motioning him across the field to Kelce, and then you're seeing Burks and Logan Ryan switch sides of the field. And at that particular moment, it opens up Burks to be out of position for Gray to make a 13-yard catch on a dump off. And then they mirror that again in the fourth quarter on the drive to go tie it with Justin Watson doing that exact same motion. And Logan Ryan and Burks switch again. And then Logan Ryan's just kind of left befuddled, like, what's going on? And then there's a huge play again there. So, I think a lot of what they were doing with pre-snap motions is what San Francisco had done so well. But Steve Spagnuolo, going back to the Kansas City defense, one other thing that Kansas City did extremely well to kind of pull back in this game and make life hard on Purdy in this offense was the fact that whenever they brought motion, Spagnuolo would blitz a guy in the interior, whether that was a corner or a safety or a linebacker. He would blitz the interior, like that kind of B gap, with pushing Trent Williams out and forcing that defensive end. So then you're vacating the space. And then with Christian McCaffrey going out and running a route, or even George Kittle playing running back, which was a mistake. In reality, George Kittle's never played running back in his life. Why do you put him in the backfield? But anyway, he's a better blocker there. But okay, anyway. So getting to football here. But you leave it wide open to disrupt a play, or you get a fresh free hit on Brock Purdy, and then obviously just the interior pressure that Chris Jones was able to wreak havoc in this game. I mean, which obviously forces the missed Ayuk in the streaking in the back of the end zone, or even the little whip route down at the bottom that like Tony Romo circled on the screen and all this. I mean, so I think it was a great defensive game plan from Spagnuolo to be able to cause disruption. And yes, like there were issues early on in the game, or even the third quarter or fourth quarter, like I said, that Purdy maybe missed 1 or 2 deep shots to maybe kind of open things up. But overall, I mean, I think this was more of a Kansas City defense won the game as opposed to even bad coaching.
Yeah, and one of the other things I want to mention too is Oren Burks. I don't think there was a more glaring, loss with the Dre Greenlaw injury that we were discussing. It wasn't as glaring. Like, yeah, there were some small things here and there that kind of showed up, but it wasn't as glaring until that last drive when Kansas City went down to tie this game on that Travis Kelce 22-yard gain, because that was Burks that got burnt in that coverage.
Yes.
And I don't feel like Dre Greenlaw would have allowed that to happen. And it's not a knock on Burks, but I just don't think Oren Burks is as fast as Greenlaw.
Well, as fast or as experienced. Like
right. Yes.
You have those two, the core of that defense is those two linebackers. And those guys run everything. And so obviously everything truly runs through Fred Warner. But when you have another guy like Fred Warner on the field that has that same IQ, that same knowledge, and the athleticism to then back it up in coverage, you're protected in the middle of the field. And unfortunately, Burks just wasn't that.
I think Burks played a really good game overall for when he was called upon. It was just the small things in certain times and crucial areas was a big issue. Now, the MVS touchdown you mentioned came off of a muff punt or a punt situation where the punt hit his
Ray McLeod would say you don't know football if you call that a muff punt.
Well, whatever you want to call it, it hit the San Francisco player. But I will say that Ray, though, the only mistake he made was not falling on the ball. He tried picking it up and running with it. Ray knows better. We've seen him be better in that sense in the past. Why he chose to try to pick it up there may have been a pressure moment. Don't know. Other than that, I don't think he did anything wrong. It was just that one thing, just fall on the ball. Just fall on it, Curtis is with us here tonight, as well as our season finale of the Goal Line Stand. Curtis very critical of Brock Purdy in San Francisco all year because the Niners fans have kind of
Curtis missed it. I was critical. I was critical.
You were critical. You were critical. That is very true. Curtis, we're just talking a little bit about San Francisco, and in case you missed the beginning of the show, I was telling the guys that basically I felt like just watching the game from I didn't have a dog in the fight. I was cheering for San Francisco, but like just from a standpoint of seeing these two teams, because it was a really good Super Bowl, that it felt like San Francisco, to me anyways, really couldn't do too much different. I think that they played a pretty good game across the board. It wasn't perfect, but Kansas City, it wasn't perfect. So I feel like they kind of match each other's energy for the most part. The only thing that I wanted to say was that I think San Francisco could have been a little more aggressive in their play calling. And I think that was something that either falls back on the coaching staff in that sense or not. I mean, Justin said he thought Kyle Shanahan called a great game. I think Kyle could have been a little more aggressive. I also don't feel Kyle was as prepared by not having his players prepared in that overtime situation as well. That's come out over the last 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours, that they weren't prepared in that situation. But to me, I don't know what else San Francisco really could have done other than just be a little more aggressive and maybe hopefully have the breaks kind of fall their way a little bit. What are your thoughts on, from a San Francisco standpoint, as a guy who was critical of the team and the quarterback all year?
Is my mic on?
Yeah, we got you, Curtis. Okay. We can hear you.
All right. The as much as the Purdy was, he wasn't good in the second half, and he had a lot of throws that hit the ground before they got to the receivers. And as much as that, my biggest issue is, I'm not saying Shanahan didn't have a good game plan, because I'm just thinking that Spagnuolo and that defense probably just changed everything they wanted to do. I find it very difficult that San Francisco or the Chiefs were able to take away the top three receiving weapons that Brock Purdy had, and he didn't target Kittle. The yards combined for Kittle, Ayuk, and Debo was like what one of them averages a game. Like during the regular season, it was CMC kept them in the game, and Juwan Jennings kept them in the game. It was that he had to go to his other guys, but the way that Kittle was not used and he wasn't targeted, Patrick Mahomes is gonna throw the ball to Kelsey no matter what. You can't let Kittle be taken out of the game if you're the 49ers, and that's what. The thing that I said it, I was like, why are they not throwing to Kittle? Why is Kittle not getting more? Why is Debo not getting more design runs? Why is Debo not getting more targets? And then when he was targeted, Brock Purdy was being, for this, I want to say the first quarter and a half, I don't think the Chiefs were getting that as much pressure. You saw those pockets that Purdy had in that first half, and then he didn't have those same pockets. Now, still, people will be like, well, he was only sacked one time, but he was pressured on almost. It would look like almost every drop back he had,
Yeah.
and even on that play that where they, I thought the game was over. I thought when that little dump off to CMC on the sideline where he little skipped and beat that guy to the edge, I thought he was gone, and Purdy was almost sacked on that play. He just luckily he found CMC. I just think that as much as I'm critical of Purdy and in the moment, and I want to say that I think that the Chiefs outplayed them defensively, and I think that Spagnuolo outperformed Shanahan as a coach. And you know what I mean? Andy Reid aside for the offense, I think that the defensive play calling from Kansas City was pretty much as good as you're going to do against that 49ers defense without sacking them a whole bunch of times like the Eagles did last year. You know what I mean? Purdy's not going to get sacked like that with that offensive line, and he does have the ability to and the awareness to not get sacked, which I'll give him credit for that, because I mean Chris Jones was on him the entire time, and Brock Purdy was rolling out pretty good, still getting the ball out, not called for any intentional grounding or anything like that. I mean, I think he did as good as he could with probably the if not the best defensive tackle, the second best defensive tackle in the NFL in the backfield almost every single play.
Yeah, and I mentioned with you, Chris. Curtis, in a chat there that Chris Jones to me was the MVP of the game, and he really disrupted a lot of things from that perspective. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't San Francisco have an offensive guard go out with an injury, or did he come back in?
He did go out. I don't know if he came back in or not.
I don't think he did he?
I don't think he did.
Yeah, so that also changed the complex of the game too. Obviously the Dre Greenlaw injury was big. The offensive line injury was, and I think that's really, I mean, Chris Jones was being Chris Jones no matter what, anyways. But for the most part, like, I think it definitely changed a little bit of what San Francisco wanted to do. I feel like that they weren't confident with what they had up front after that injury happened. Again, though, I just don't know what else San Francisco really could have done other than to try going into the teeth of this defense, and be a little more aggressive. I thought the play calling issues. There were some play calling things there that were, a little suspect per se. But other than that, though, I really honestly like overall what we saw. Now, on the flip side, from the Kansas City perspective, it was a rough first half, a much better second half. They had a few things fall their way, literally, as far as a punt was concerned, that ended up, being a fumble that resulted in an MVS, touchdown, and at a much later time. But from a Kansas City perspective, this is just what we've come to expect, right, Chris? It's just Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce being Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid going to McDonald's after the game to celebrate with a couple Big Macs and a quarter pounder, probably. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, without a doubt. I felt like the Chiefs, from what I see, they brought a lot of simulated pressures, which really worked. They brought a ton of blitzes. Everything they did, just they played chess. The 49ers played checkers in the fourth quarter and overtime. And then I felt like that eventually kind of got up to them, to be honest. But I think Steve Spagnuolo should be a head coach. I mean, if Dave Canales for the Bucs,
the Panthers
be a head coach, man. I don't know, man. I feel like Steve Spagnuolo should be a head coach if he wanted to be a head. Wasn't he already a head coach though back in the day?
Yeah, he was with the Giants, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was the Giants head coach.
Yeah, so maybe another opportunity. But
the thing with Spags is he may end up being a better coordinator than a head coach. Who knows? It happens sometimes in life. We're talking a lot about Kansas City and what Kansas City did right here and stuff, but and we'll get to the Kansas City side of things with Justin and Curtis here in a second. But I just wanted to mention real quick that I don't want people to lose sight of the fact that San Francisco was winning this game at two different points late in this game. It was just, you have Patty Mahomes on the other side of the field. You have Patrick on the other side of the field, and at that point in time, defense was, a little gassed. There was the Dre Greenlaw injury that changed things up. Overtime, I think, was just more of just not being prepared for the scenario more than anything. But I did want to mention that Kansas City won the Super Bowl with the exact same play that they won the Super Bowl with against Philadelphia last year. It was the exact same play, just a different person on the receiving end. Justin, what's your Kansas City thoughts? We talked a little bit about it. You went a little bit with the whole overview of the Super Bowl there with the San Francisco side of things, but what do you hear? What do you have?
See, I still have plenty more. That I
didn't that's fine. I mean, we have a show to fill out.
Yeah, exactly. But no, but when you mentioned Kyle Shanahan's definitely, I think, more to blame than anything. Just kind of finishing up my San Francisco stuff. So it's not. I think he called an overall good game, but the same narrative unfortunately kind of continues with the Falcons, the previous Super Bowl, the now.
Before you finish that thought, Justin, if I tell you 29-74, do you know what those numbers mean?
No, I don't.
You don't know what those numbers mean? Do you know what those numbers mean, Curtis?
Is that rush yards in the second half?
No, that is the last 3 Super Bowl appearances for Kyle Shanahan in the second half and what he's been outscored by as an offensive coordinator or head coach. So 29-74. I just wanted to throw that out there because you were talking about Shanahan, so I just wanted to mention it right quick.
All right, I'm just mentioning that. And I think this channel knows I really like Shanahan, really like Purdy, really like what San Francisco does. Anyway, but no, going to Kansas City, I kind of already talked about what I think Steve Spagnuolo did extremely well defensively with being able to bring pressure in the interior. Obviously, Chris Jones being Chris Jones and just being the ultimate disruptor there. So I'm not going to go rehash anything I said about the defensive stuff.
Right, yeah. Sure.
But, I mean, the other part is how many times have we seen in the most crucial moment on the key down, Patrick Mahomes uses his legs to extend a play, make a play, and galvanize this team. Patrick Mahomes is not Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes is not Michael Vick. But I would argue that the runs that he makes, especially in crucial moments, are just as, if not more, influential than some of the greatest scrambling quarterbacks in the NFL history. So I'm not going to go say he's the greatest scrambling quarterback in history of the NFL because obviously he's not a scrambler. But the impact that he has through when he rushes, especially in these crucial moments, the one thing I love about Patrick, and I guess you can say I know a little bit about him because I know him in person, been around him, trained with him. But one thing that I've noticed with him, especially in these big games, and then you even kind of notice it when you train with him, things like that, the situational awareness that he has. To be able, and the mental fortitude that he has to be able to know when to use the legs, to know when to be a game manager and be a game changer, and when to flip that switch to say, okay, it's competition mode now. And then just the mentality that he has, it's that of the greats, the Tom Brady's, the Michael Jordans. He has that. And I think this second half was a true display of Patrick Mahomes' brilliance. Am I going to say he's Tom Brady yet? No. He's got to. The numbers have to get there in the conversation, but he's definitely on the trajectory, if not surpassing the trajectory. But I mean, it's the greatness of Patrick Mahomes, and we're very lucky to sit here and watch and see it. And like you said, San Francisco lost this game because 15 was on the other side, and that's why I chose Kansas City 2 weeks ago. Because of 15.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's really hard to bet against Patrick. And even though I picked San Francisco, I still wasn't confident about it. I wasn't confident about it when I picked Buffalo to beat Kansas City. The only time I picked Kansas City I think through the entire playoffs was Miami.
And that was the one time I betted against him.
And that was the one time you bet against him. Yeah.
I chose Miami too.
Yeah. You heard us in the same boat.
You know what I mean? So I just think that it's the surprising thing to me the most is Rashee Rice didn't really have, he had become into being a lead receiver. Mm-hmm. He didn't need to be. And Patrick Mahomes found guys. I mean, I still think MVS is garbage. And yet, for whatever reason, he was found on third down a couple times in the touchdown and actually made the catch. I think he's better than Kadarius Toney, but that's a different story. And Justin Watson made an appearance here, and it's like Travis Kelce was, or I'm sorry, Kels, because that's actually how it's pronounced, was was actually this offense just seems to be so much different when he's in flow, and I know that doesn't have to be stated because of how the greatness of Travis, Kelce is and how awesome he is, and his rapport with Patrick Mahomes. A lot of that can go unstated, but it really showed in this the amount of uh, impact, the impact overall that he has on this offense, Curtis, and it's a Kansas City might be in hot water if they ever lose Kelce. Like it's gonna be. But can you imagine this team with a receiver to help out Rashee Rice and just be those three? Like it would be dangerous. It's dangerous already.
Yeah.
Just your Kansas City thoughts. I mean, I didn't really segue that well into that.
I
probably should have. I probably could have done a little bit better with that, but
No,
it's the second Monday of the week, so just.
No, I agree. I agree that Kansas City needs they need a tandem receiver, or they need a complementary receiver to Rashee Rice, who obviously you saw him visibly upset. Him and Mahomes were having a little chat there when he missed Mahomes on that touchdown pass where he forced it to Kelce against Warner. Now, most quarterbacks are going to make that throw to Kelce. I think the throw was a little bit late, and Warner's a great coverage linebacker, so there was no chance that Kelce was going to catch that. But Rashee Rice played well. There was a time when I want to say Watson. He dropped that pass for the first down, and I was like, oh my God, here we go with the things. But going back to what Kansas City did offensively in the first half, they were so stale. 49ers defensive line just rushing four, like Tony Romo had pointed out. They weren't blitzing; they were just rushing four. And Chase Young was destroying Patrick Mahomes that entire first half. The second half, it seemed like our boy Bosa, instead of rushing the quarterback, he was so worried about playing containment on Patrick Mahomes that he basically took himself out of the game just to stop Mahomes if Mahomes was going to take off when the pocket collapsed. I do understand it, but at the same time, Nick Bosa, you're supposed to be the number one guy rushing that quarterback. I want to see him sack the quarterback. You know what I mean? Chase Young is feasting off of that too, but at the same time, I think Nick Bosa just went into this like protection cover mode, and I like a spy almost. And it as a defensive end, it didn't. I don't understand why, but
I wonder how much, Curtis, that was because of the Dre Greenlaw injury.
It might have been, yeah, because I mean the impact of Dre Greenlaw getting hurt and just how freakishly it happened changed the entire outcome of the game, because the guy that came in for him, I can't remember his name.
Oren Burks.
He allowed the touchdown, or he allowed the first down that got them the first and goal to Kelce.
That's what it was. The 22-yard gain. Yeah,
and Logan Ryan was the touchdown MVS.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just can't be stated. And it's football. Injuries happen. You have to adapt and overcome it. Everybody gets injured. But the fact that, one of your best and one of the best interior linebackers in the entire NFL went out in the Super Bowl, tore his Achilles, and now freaking Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are picking on this guy that came in here, and they know it. You know what I mean? They're like, that happens when a cornerback, whatever cornerback gets hurt, and they bring some rookie in off the bench, and then they're, let's get him. Let's go up on his head, and the mastery of Patrick Mahomes, it can't be stated. Like Justin had said, I always compare his running to like Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers didn't have wheels either. But when Aaron Rodgers took off, he was always gaining a first down. It was always like, how is there nobody on this side of the field that can catch this, this old guy, you know what I mean? And he would get a 20-yard run out of nowhere. And I always say, Aaron Rodgers is probably the perfect person that you can compare Mahomes to in general. But Mahomes is Mahomes, and there's nobody else in the league that's like him. There's nobody else in the league that can touch him at quarterback. And but I do agree. If he doesn't have Travis Kelce, it's going to be tough if they don't get some playmakers on offense. They need to get rid of CEH because he's the most ineffective waste of a first-round draft pick I've ever seen.
Garbage.
And Pacheco was doing good until that fumble, and then they didn't want to run with him anymore. And that was the key to the game, was those outside runs with Pacheco. I mean, he came
still
back.
had some angry runs afterwards. I mean,
Yeah.
he runs angry. He's an angry runner.
I think in the fourth quarter they really had to, because I mean, San Francisco's defense, as much as we talked about, I think they were playing safe. I think San Francisco's defense was still playing very tough. There was a lot of third and ones. There was a lot of fourth downs that Kansas City had to overcome. So even with, Hufanga was out, the whole San Francisco defense was changed as a whole. And they still had Randy Gregory, Chase Young, Joey Bosa, and Fred Warner, and Charvarius Ward. I mean, their defense is just as stacked as their offense is. It's just, I think it's just Mahomes' magic. That's all it can come down to, is that you hate to say it's just the quarterback, because it's not, but I mean, that quarterback made that team win. You know what I mean?
I think great quarterbacks make mediocre wide receiver look good. Obviously, Justin in Carolina has a host of wide receivers. He had the best receiving core.
Call me Brock Purdy.
Yeah, he had the best receiving core in the NAL. I mean, Ing, Smith, Gregory, Coleman, you can go down the list. All those guys are first teamers. But, Mahomes kind of had to make use of what he had, and he did a really good job at that. And I feel like, another guy that really did good at that was Aiden O'Connell with the Raiders. I felt like he made Jacoby Myers better. I think that I don't know, man. Something about those two. I feel like he really.
I never thought I would hear Aiden O'Connell and Patrick Mahomes in the same sentence.
Other than they faced each other.
Yeah.
But he made Jacoby Myers excel, because Jacoby was in the right system with him. You know what I'm saying? Sort of.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe.
I mean, maybe. You know what I'm trying to say.
Jacoby Myers was New England's best wide receiver for years.
I know.
And y'all let him walk for Juju Smith-Schuster, because that worked out well. And then we had a panelist say Kendrick Bourne was going to be MVP.
Don't worry. He's going to have a great 2024.
I love Kendrick Bourne, so I hope so. I mean, I love Kendrick Bourne, okay. I mean, hey, Hot Take Chris is back. Look at that. Aiden O'Connell is Patrick Mahomes of Las Vegas.
No. No, I said that he elevated Jacoby Myers' game. That's all I said.
You think he elevated Jacoby Myers? You really think he elevated Jacoby Myers' game?
Jacoby Myers with the start.
That was a legit question. That's not me actually poking fun at you.
No.
You actually think he did?
Well, he gave Jacoby Myers an opportunity to excel. So in return, yeah, he elevated his game. He gave him more opportunities.
All right, Shane, if you're here, let us know what you think in the comments.
You know what I'm saying? If Justin, right, hypothetically gets to camp and has a connection with one of the receivers, and that receiver does better than he previously has done, he is in turn elevating his game. You know what I'm saying? He's helping.
Well, I mean, Justin's doing that right now, being on the panel by elevating my game. He's not.
So,
you know what I'm saying?
It's what I do.
This is what he does. This is
it's the quarterback club. It's what we do.
The quarterback. It's Justin Hart. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you an example. So Justin trained with this guy named the Facebook guy Trey Hill, I think his name is. He's a free agent.
Yep.
With the FCF. Justin elevated his game, by working on routes with him, right? You elevated him and he elevated you. So that's the same thing, Aiden O'Connell. It's a symbiotic relationship.
I don't want to sound like I'm hating on Farva, because I think I do like Aiden O'Connell. I hope he gets the starting job there. But is it more so Aiden O'Connell is elevating Jacoby Myers' game, or is it that you've seen Jacoby Myers play with an ineffective I can't think of his name, Mac Jones, and an ineffective Jimmy G, and now you see a quarterback that's maybe more so effectively getting him the ball, and you're seeing what he can do more as a receiver?
Or a quarterback that a defense doesn't have tape on.
I think you're
Yeah. Oh, no, I think Justin hit the nail on the head right there.
To the Aiden O'Connell situation, real quick. Well, just for me, it's like it's kind of hard to evaluate him at this point because
Yeah.
like it's one of those situations with a rookie quarterback. He played well. He responded well to Antonio Pierce. He did play well. I mean, let's be honest. He played well. It wasn't like he played poorly by any means. It's just I don't know if he elevates the players around him like the greatness of like Patrick Mahomes does. Like Mahomes elevates Justin Watson. Mahomes elevates MVS. I don't think anybody can elevate Kadarius Toney.
I'll give it a try. Kadarius,
you
want to hit me up? I'll try.
Yeah, Justin will try. Yeah, I mean, UFL baby next year.
Yeah,
you guys will be quarterback, wide receivers.
Yeah, there we go.
Matt Corral signed with Birmingham Stallions, by the way, for the UFL for those fans out there. Isaiah Pacheco, guys, like I don't think people realize he runs a 4.29.
Yeah,
to run that angry is ridiculous. Like it's crazy. It's insane. Like I don't not knocking it. It's awesome to watch, but he is an angry runner for a fast dude.
The way he runs, you would think just running mechanics alone, you'd put him on the clock and be like, all right, 4.5, but he's going to run everybody over. You put him on the clock, all right, 4.29. What?
Yeah, like I know that's the underwear Olympics and all that, but he looks fast even in pads. So I mean, like I don't know, man, it's crazy. I've never seen a guy that fast be that angry.
Yeah, it makes you miss Marion Barber, man. It's like, you know what I mean, running backs that ran like that, and Marion Barber is a different era. You were allowed to, truck the defenders, but I mean, Pacheco you don't see runners that are like that too much, that really go for contact, and the defenders don't like that. I mean, I don't think defenders like tackling running backs, especially like if it's Derrick Henry, but
secondaries don't.
You also don't think that Derrick Henry can run a 4.29 40. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry's obviously he's an alien from a different planet. Like he's not human. I mean, that picture of him next to Mark Ingram was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, and we'll talk free agent. I mean, Derrick Henry's a free agent coming up. Who the hell knows what's going to happen there? But, I had to mention that about Pacheco because I feel like that he's at his best when he sees that hole and makes his mind up that he's going to hit that hole, and it doesn't matter who's in his way. It could be a 450-pound William Refrigerator Perry, and he'll just bounce off of him and then just blow by everybody. Like, I don't know.
Roadrunner.
Hey, he ran angry in the Super Bowl, that's for sure. After that fumble, he was pissed off. So he made sure every San Francisco 49er defender knew it too. You're going to hit me, I'm going to hit you harder. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. We don't see it very often anymore, so I'm all for it. The other thing I wanted to touch on with this game, and this may rub some people the wrong way, but I'm giving credit to the officials. We were harsh on them all year. There was some missed calls, but I feel like you can do that every game.
Yep.
But the biggest thing for me was they let them play. It was even across the board. There wasn't any true egregious bad calls or missed calls that swung the momentum of this game in favor of one team over the other. How often do we see this regular season, or even through the playoffs? You could even make a case of a officiating crew missing a call and the momentum swinging in favor of the team that benefited from that missed call, or an egregious call that was so bad that you wonder who the hell made the call, and then the team that didn't benefit from that, getting the momentum. Like, we didn't really see that in this game, and I will give credit to the officials for A, letting them play, and B, not being responsible for big momentum swings. I just wanted to mention that. I feel like it's something that's worth discussing or talking about, or even just giving props and then moving on from. But we were really critical of them all year on the show.
Yep.
And I got to give credit where credit's due, in my opinion. I don't know if anybody has a differing opinion than me or not, but
I agree.
That's where I'm at.
100%. I think Bill, the referee for the Super Bowl, Bill Vinovich, I think his name is.
Yeah.
That's the reason why he's the director of officials, right? That's the reason why he's the head. He called a great game. I like it was clean. I love a clean football game. It was just man on man. So I always love to see that. And I think NFL officials, we all have to remember, are not full-time employees. They have other jobs too. And until the NFL can pay them, you have 17 different crews every single week going out there. And one crew might call it differently than another. So I think that's where the disconnect is. If they could make them all full-time employees, they could all sit down in a central location every single week and kind of deliberate.
They took that program away though.
That's the
They
thing.
took that program. I don't know why they took it. Well, I know why they took it away. It doesn't make sense to me. But I mean, for the Super Bowl side of things, anyways, it was a fantastic.
It was good.
It was a fantastic, entertaining Super Bowl, and I'm glad that there was no officiating controversy coming out of it. In my opinion, that took away from what we watched.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it was a great called game, especially since that everybody had the opinion that that's Patrick Mahomes' favorite ref. But I do see people complaining that they're like, oh, the Chiefs haven't got called for holding in the last three Super Bowls. And it's like, I don't know, because I saw the Chiefs get called for a lot of penalties in that game, especially it was a really controversial play there in the fourth quarter. Brock Purdy threw his third pass directly into the ground in a row. And I think he tried to, it looked like he maybe tried to clutch it and it came out of his hand, but they called holding downfield on McDuffie. And that was a 5-yard penalty where the 49ers are going to punt the ball to the Chiefs. So it was a good call. It was supposed to be called, and it was called against the Chiefs. So I don't think anybody could be really mad. Either way, I think that the game was called pretty much as clean as you can say. I don't even think a pass interference call was called at all. No team had a pass interference call. I mean,
remember.
Yeah, they let the guys play. The game didn't really get chippy. There was a horse collar call, I think, was made.
Collar on Ayuk, or excuse me, on Purdy.
On
and
Purdy.
then the one kind of Ayuk and Snead slap kind of thing. That was the only kind of fight.
And that was when Chris Jones called them all over to the sideline and said, "Stop playing stupid and get back in the game." It doesn't matter if the obviously Ayuk was messing around with them, but as soon as the ref comes over, you're going to slap him in the face. You're going to get called for that. And the same thing with the horse collar. It didn't seem like he really grabbed too much. He looked like he let go and he was grabbing jersey, but it's going to get called because it looks like it and because it's the quarterback. I think
it's also the right call though. I mean, let's be honest. It's also the right call at that point in time. I mean,
you don't want to see anybody get hurt,
but right. I mean,
because all they're seeing is hand up by the horse collar, and then you see Purdy's knees buckle.
Yeah. The only really egregious holding call that I saw that wasn't called, and it didn't really result in anything. It wouldn't have changed much, I don't think. I think it was the third down play where Mahomes rolled out in the red zone, where 45 for San Francisco got his hands on the ball in that corner run. Bosa came off the line, hit the offensive tackle, went to spin inside, and ended up not being able to move. So his back was facing the same direction as the offensive tackle.
Got him here or something like that.
So his back was to the offensive tackle, but he was in the offensive tackle's arms, and you saw him throw him to the ground. Mm-hmm. And it was a clear holding call, but it didn't really change the outcome of the play. So I'm assuming that they probably were just like, well, this is going to be a field goal anyways. It just would have been interesting to see what San Francisco would have done. They probably would have declined it to force the field goal instead of taking the 3rd and 25 or whatever it would have been. But it's the only play that I really saw that was like a super egregious holding call from both sides. Really, it was really the only one that I saw. And I'm sure Chris Jones probably got held on every play, but I mean,
he still ended up in Brock Purdy's lap. So it didn't matter.
But there really wasn't anything else that I saw that was like super egregious on that point, and I'm just glad they let him play as well. And Trent McDuffie, how good is he, guys? He's so underrated.
When you allow him to play man on man, he's pretty darn good.
So good.
I think Snead just because he's a unrestricted free agent, I think he just named his price tag, right? And he might come out as the number one highest paid corner coming out into the next. He might reset the market.
I mean, Snead's really good too. Snead and McDuffie. McDuffie was an All-Pro, but I mean, I don't even as an All-Pro, I don't feel like a lot of people talk about him, but he is really friggin' good. Like he is really good.
And how good are the Chiefs at drafting cornerbacks? Because you got to remember, Charvarius Ward was one of theirs too.
Yeah.
They have drafted amazing. I think Marcus Peters was from them too, wasn't he?
Marcus Peters too, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they know what they're doing.
I mean, the great thing about it is they can only draft corners because they're always picking the back half of the draft.
That's true.
Hey man, that's where all the Mahomes.
That's where all the corners are.
We're just waiting on Cooper DeJean now.
Right, get Cooper DeJean. Yeah, he'll be a Kansas City Chief to replace Snead, who goes to Cleveland, and then we don't hear from him ever again. Or the Jets. No, I'm just kidding. The Jets actually have two really great corners.
I'll take them.
Two really great corners. I mean, let's be honest. I'll take him in
Atlanta or Minnesota. I'll take
him in Washington. I'm the one that's suffering the most with defense. I'll take him in Washington. And watch, it's going to happen because we already have a Kendall Fuller relationship. So we'll take L'Jarius Sneed, overpay him, and he'll turn into Trayvon Diggs minus the interceptions.
He'll be toast in Washington.
Jesus, don't put that on me. Fuck, it's already bad enough that I got to deal with Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury.
I'm sorry.
And don't get me wrong, Cliff Kingsbury could end up being great, but what's his resume and why is he my offensive coordinator? That's just. I do a fantasy show, we talk about fantasy and stuff, and we talked about this past Thursday as far as the head coaches and the offensive coordinators, and a lot of the teams that are happening right now with a lot of these changes. I like the teams that have defensive coordinators as the head coach, and then they bring in an offensive guy that they choose, not a front office pick. Mm-hmm. And Washington's situation was a front office pick. So, it's not like a Raheem Morris brought in Zach Robinson and said, "Here you go." It's not a who was the other defensive coordinator that got a job? Damn, I can't think of who it was now. There's another defensive guy, but Houston, DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick, this was a front office Magic Johnson saying, "We're going to hire Cliff Kingsbury," and Dan Quinn's going, "Oh, okay." You saw Dan Quinn and Justin in Atlanta, and Dan Quinn's a good head. I think he is a solid.
I think he's a great head coach, and he's of the Dan Campbell mold, where I think obviously he's X's and O, really good defensive coordinator, defensive guy.
Yeah,
but I saw in Atlanta multiple times. Atlanta would suck at the start of the season, or good in the beginning of the season, suck in the middle of the season, and then they're well out of the playoffs and about to fire him. And then once the team locker room figured out they're about to fire him, everybody loves Dan Quinn, so they start playing for him. So he's a guy that can galvanize a locker room and be of the Dan Campbell type mold. Just like I was kind of saying with Raheem Morris in Atlanta, you have to be able to completely overhaul that offense and give a great offensive coordinator and have that there to be able to kind of overcome that. Because I haven't seen offensive prowess or offensive knowledge out of Dan Quinn or be able to do that. So I think it's imperative for the success of the quarterback or whoever's going to then going to be there in Washington.
New England was the other one, Gerard Mayo, and they brought in Alex Van Pelt. That's the type of stuff that I like to see, because that's a, you weren't in this system last year. We're going to give you the reins type of situation. I'm a defensive-minded coach. This offense is yours. I like seeing that, because I think that's where the most successful defensive head coaches come from. Because defensive head coaches don't have a very high success rate. Yeah. They really don't. So,
and I'll even butt in this too. I mean, going back and ripping the heart out here for my 2016 Atlanta Falcons type stuff. Kyle Shanahan, Dan Quinn's done it before. So, Cliff Kingsbury's kind of that same offensive mold. So maybe you can replicate some of that. But again, it's Cliff Kingsbury.
But is Dan Quinn pick Cliff Kingsbury, or was this a front office move? You know what I mean?
Well,
that's the biggest question. It's not a it's not that it's Cliff Kingsbury that's the problem. It's
It's
that
the fact that it's not Dan Quinn's guy.
I don't feel like it's Dan Quinn picking Cliff Kingsbury. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Didn't I read that Washington brought in the former GM or the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Well,
and he is basically using his decision making with analytics, and I think it's like somebody from PFF or something like that. That's who they're going to pick with their personnel is somebody. I mean, that's the whole thing with bringing Magic Johnson in, bringing in this guy from Golden State Warriors to be like I don't know if he's third party or if he's has like an actual position where, but they're going through this guy to help them make decisions. So maybe that was the decision they had, and hopefully they asked Dan Quinn, because Dan Quinn did say Eric Bieniemy's not going to be here as offensive coordinator as soon as he got in the job, but I don't know.
So Josh Harris is the owner now. He owns the Philadelphia 76ers. Magic Johnson was a minority owner in the purchasing of this team. So Magic Johnson's already a minority owner. They brought in Bob Myers from Golden State to be on the advisory board to hire a general manager and a head coach. They hired Adam Peters from San Francisco to be the general manager. Adam Peters, when he arrived in San Francisco, they had the second pick and the most cap space. He was on that general managing team when he joined in San Francisco. He's joining Washington now with the second pick and the most cap space. The problem is I think that Adam Peters and the front office wanted Ben Johnson. And when Ben Johnson said, I'm not taking any head coaching jobs, I don't want to do it, I want to stay in Detroit. Yeah. I think it threw Washington for a loop, because I think they put all their eggs in their one basket, and that's why they waited so long to hire. But because they waited so long, they ended up missing on a ton of good candidates prior to. No offense to Detroit, no offense for making a run. I wish they would have gone to the Super Bowl. But when Washington did that, they didn't do a very good job of having a backup plan, even though they interviewed 9,000 people. When Ben Johnson happened, they were in Detroit interviewing Aaron Glenn, and then all of a sudden, within 12 hours, they were like, Dan Quinn's our head coach. Yay. And it almost felt like a panic move. And then I think that they were scrambling for an offensive coordinator situation, because they needed to find somebody that was going to come in and be like, who can run this offense if we don't get Caleb Williams, but who can run this offense if we do get Caleb Williams at the same time? Right? Because Cliff Kingsbury was so adamant about Kyler Murray, which is already a red flag to me. No offense to anybody who's a Kyler Murray fan. I'm not a fan. And that's a red flag to me already. But the good news is Cliff does like Justin Fields. So there's an out.
Mike Tomlin. Just saying that.
Well, Pittsburgh obviously is in the running too, but there's an out, though, if Washington can't strike a deal with Chicago, which it already sounds like nobody's striking a deal with Chicago, judging it based upon what their asking price is.
Yep.
So maybe there's something they can work out with that Justin Fields, trade issue, because I think Cliff can run this offense with Justin Fields because he's similar to Kyler Murray in what he does bring to the table. So I think that's where the front office pressured it. My question is, from a Washington standpoint, is how well are these two going to mesh? Because if Cliff Kingsbury was not Dan Quinn's choice, they are going to have to then grow together and find a common ground to come together on this. And it's left to be seen whether or not it's going to work. Right.
Yeah, time, or that could end up being by week 5, week 6, somebody's out of there.
Right. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think Washington needs a quarterback. But I mean, maybe I'm a little bit
on your side.
I was going to say maybe I'm a little bit biased with the Sam Howell thing, but I thought there was a lot of growth there, and I thought there was a lot of flashes for things that he could grow with. But this move with Cliff Kingsbury doesn't tell me that Howell is going to be the starting quarterback. That's all that tells me. Unfortunately,
to Atlanta, I'll take him. 3rd round pick.
Yeah,
I mean, if you guys give us a 3rd round pick, you can have Howell for that. I mean, if we're not going to start him, go ahead.
I mean, Washington should have tried to do the ultimate screw you to the Cowboys and went after Kellen Moore. But I think that he would have fit. I know you. I think he's a good play caller, but
he could stay in Philadelphia.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. Cliff Kingsbury. I think his thing with Murray, didn't he recruit him from high school and to play? I think he just loves Kyler Murray because he loves him as a person and he wants to give him a chance. I get that, but
his head coaching job should never have happened in my opinion.
I don't think Kingsbury offense has really equated well to. I think it was well when people didn't have footage on it, and then when people adapted to it, it didn't really work too good. But that first year when he had Kirk and DeAndre Hopkins, and I think Larry Fitzgerald was still there, and they had a couple other wide receivers here and there. They had David Johnson at running back, and I think they did pretty good with that offense. And then
I don't think
Cliff figured it out.
I don't think Cliff was there for that though, was he?
I think that might have been.
I don't think he was there with David Johnson because Kyler Murray's was 2018. 19. He was the first pick overall.
Yeah.
I don't think David Johnson was there. I think David Johnson was gone already.
So 2018 was when they drafted Josh Rosen.
Okay, so then 19.
So 2019 was I think David Johnson was already gone then. I don't think he was there at that point. I think his last year was 18, 17.
Oh, you're right because they traded him for DeAndre Hopkins. You're right. I'm thinking of another running back that from Alabama, Kenyon Drake. That's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Kenyon Drake was there. I mean, Cliff showed some offensive, like when he was with Arizona, but the problem was just more like Arizona didn't help him. Steve Keim didn't help him. Let's be honest. Steve Keim did not help Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona.
Oh, no. And just to kind of get everything right, yes, Cliff Kingsbury was there in 2019 with Kyler as a rookie, David Johnson, and Kenyon Drake.
Oh, David Johnson was there. Okay, all right.
With Chase Edmonds as the
rotation. Oh, Chase Edmonds. That's who I was thinking. It was Chase Edmonds. Yeah. Chase Edmonds. Well, I mean, regardless, I mean, we got a little bit off the Super Bowl here with a little bit of a rant about Washington and Cliff Kingsbury, but I'm still excited to see what happens because of the most cap space. We do have a ton of draft picks in the first, in the first like 100 and 15, whatever. We'll see what happens. The thing that I want to see, Krish, hold on one second, and this is what I hope happens. Ready? So we own Chicago's first round pick. So we own 209. Or second round pick, sorry. We own 209. Trade 202 to Justin Fields. Trade 202 for Justin Fields. If you're going to go for a quarterback, trade 202 for Justin Fields. Chicago will be like, oh, we got to, whatever. Don't care. We have your pick. We're fine. Just saying.
Yeah.
Chris, you got your hand up like you're a 14-year-old in high school. What's up?
Yes. Well, I am still in high school, but I have a couple things, just random. One is on topic, and then I'm gonna go a little off topic. But on topic, I am so excited to see Justin Fields in a Steelers uniform. I've already been preparing. I launched up my Madden franchise mode. I set him to a 96 overall, and I've just been, throwing dimes to George Pickens. It's been so fun. I'm so excited. I would literally get a Steelers Justin Fields jersey, and I would go to a game. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks, if not my favorite in the league. And my other thing is I've been watching a lot of this league, a certain league. Obviously arena football I watch, but I'm starting to watch the European League of Football. And I stumbled across this quarterback named Connor Miller. And I was watching his film, and I'm like, man, this guy could be a backup in the NFL. So I guess my question is, how many guys can, we talked about it off camera, indoor, translating outdoor, but how many of these guys who are already outdoor could really, translate to the NFL style?
You said from the outdoor side? So first and foremost, I had Connor Miller on Summer Showcase. Okay. With the ELF. It's my ELF show on the summertime. Shameless plug here on the Shady Sports Network. It will be returning this year, and I'm hoping actually to get Connor Miller on it, even though he's not with the ELF this year. I don't think it's necessarily that these other leagues can't have them adapt to the NFL. I think it's the NFL doesn't take these other leagues seriously enough yet. It's more of a political side of things than it is anything else. So you take a look at the UFL, for instance, right? Like AJ McCarron had success in the NFL even, but for whatever reason, AJ McCarron played in the UFL or the XFL with St. Louis, and he still struggled to be on a roster, coming out of that. I think the NFL takes it seriously to a certain point, but I think it's more certain positions, and I think the quarterback position is literally the last position that they look at.
Yep.
And I think it's just because you have 32 starters,
32.
you have 64 quarterbacks total. The NFL wants to believe that their 64 is the top 64 in the league. But how many times do you see a starter go down and they bring in somebody else to be like, oh, this backup, because it's money also involved. Yep. So it's not always the case that they have the top 64 in. I think it's just a matter of working the cap, manipulating the cap, et cetera, et cetera.
Isn't it 96 quarterbacks in the NFL now? Like they have to keep a mandatory backup.
Well, they have to have the emergency third guy, which
they have to have
inflate those numbers.
But that's on the taxi squad usually, or the practice squad, and that guy usually is just more of a scapegoat to get cut if they have a guy like Joe Flacco come in. You know what I mean? Like
and like I don't like to use like the political excuse, but it's so relevant.
I hate using it as a scapegoat argument or whatever, but if you just look at it, it's 1,000% just the way that it is, and Justin can attest to it more than probably any of us can. It's just it's just the way that works, and when you have so many schools already in the D1 level, the FBS level, not even the FCS level, but the FBS level, and
it's easier to take one of those 15 or 16 guys coming out in the draft every year, because then they're a draft prospect, they're NFL graded,
and that's
as opposed to
exactly that's the NFL developmental. The NFL developmental league of the NCAA, obviously, right? So they're more likely to look at a guy obviously from college. Like they're more likely to look at a Spencer Rattler over Matt Corral. Say Matt Corral goes into Birmingham and balls out, which he will. He has an opportunity to move up.
Well, let me ask you a question though, right? And Justin and Curtis and you guys can all attest to this. How many quarterbacks in this draft do you think are going to get drafted? Roughly, just give me drafted in this class coming up.
Six.
Like the whole draft, or you're talking about first day?
The whole draft.
Oh, I'd say 10. I say 10.
Well, I was going to lead towards 10 to 12. There's at least 10 that I've looked at already, but there's 2 more that I think could back end.
Okay, so there's 10 to 12 coming out. Do you know how many are invited to just the combine?
30?
Nope. Good little pump. You're close, Justin. It's 14. 14 invited. Do you know how many draft eligible quarterbacks there are?
There's like 40 or 50. It's massive.
It's such a massive amount. That right there tells you alone.
Yep.
The politics side of it, because of those 14 that are invited to the combine, do you know how many of them are not FBS schools? 0. Just in case the rhetorical question went over your head.
No.
You know what I mean? And one of those guys is Keaton Slovis.
Yeah.
No offense to Keaton Slovis, but 3 schools in 4 years or 5 years, and his numbers fell way off after his freshman year. Why is he getting in? Oh, that's right. He played at USC. Then he played at BYU, and he was over at Pittsburgh. That's why. You know what I mean? So
just to kind of throw my story into it, Texas Wesleyan NAIA.
Right.
Decide to try to come back, think I could maybe put my name into the draft, but I came back, all that other kind of stuff. So I missed the deadline, left right after the deadline to declare. So where did I have to go? I didn't declare for the draft. I had to go to Arena Bowl.
Yeah.
And that's why,
and then now I'm categorized as the arena guy. So then it's even harder because the UFL doesn't necessarily take arena seriously. Right. Similar to how the NFL doesn't take the UFL or ELF seriously. So it's that same kind of repetition over and over.
Yeah.
And, with the UFL, me, I've been so passionate about my boy Guy Myers and how they kind of did that to him. But, for me, it's like, why sign a quarterback and bring him into camp and not even like give him an opportunity to compete.
It's,
And I'm not asking you to have him start day one. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking
it's
is,
the game
hey,
they gotta play.
give him a shot.
Unfortunately.
You know?
It's just the way it rolls, though. I mean, you also have to remember too that a guy like Guy, to use him as an example in this situation, like they had Guy signed because they weren't sure if anybody was coming back. And then when some of these other quarterbacks started coming back and not hiring their future contracts, Guy now takes a back seat because he is the arena guy. So that's just, and that's the political side of it, and that's why, as much as I want to believe that everybody can get to the NFL, it's just
Not
you
true.
have to weave in and out of this political game in order to get there. So
have you seen Michigan's new quarterback that transferred there? You probably have seen it on Twitter, but his name is Anthony Aurora, and he's from like Fresno State. He didn't even start at Fresno State. He's like from Pasadena City Community College, and he transferred to Michigan. And I read something about like him starting for them. I'm like, I don't sometimes understand where, there's so many guys sitting in the portal right now that won't ever find another school.
The transfer portal the transfer portal, to me, in my opinion, is actually beneficial, and it would have been great for Justin to have when he was around. But it would have been, though, because it would have given you a chance to move through the rankings, like a guy.
And I never say this either, because now we're kind of getting into my personal journey here. Going into what would have then been the year of COVID that kind of affected my chance to go back from scout team to being a starter and things like that. I thought about leaving Texas Wesleyan, abandoning the program I built, and grad transferring to TCU.
Yeah.
Like, I thought about doing that. I had coaches that were interested in what they saw through scout team film and through scrimmage film, things like that I had available to me at the time. Like, they were like, yeah, we'll bring you in. But I chose not to because I wanted to be loyal to the school that gave me a chance after my injury.
Yeah. But that situation also leads to the NFL side of things and the weaving in and out of the politics, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. All right. We got way off topic here. We're back at the coal line stand.
Yeah, now you're making me regret not going to TCU.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hate to do that to you, Justin. I hate to do that to you.
Rams up.
Yeah. I don't have anything else too much more for the Super Bowl. I think I said pretty much what I wanted to say. There was some standout players. I thought it was a great Super Bowl. I don't know if it was the best Super Bowl in the last 10 years, but I think it was pretty good. That Rams Bengals one was
that
one was pretty damn good. So, but I enjoyed it overall, and like I said, with everything, I thought the whole game across the board. I thought San Francisco could have been a little more aggressive. Kansas City, I think, had a few lucky breaks fall their way to allow them to stay in the game, and maybe that was San Francisco's fault. Who the hell knows? I don't know, but it cleanly officiated game for the most part. I don't have any other final thoughts. I'm glad Travis is coming back. He did announce they're trying to go for a three-peat. And one other thing I do want to say is Patrick Mahomes, like, after the game with the interview, he was like, oh yeah, we're going to take this. We're going to enjoy the parade, but after the parade, it's back to work. Like, love that from a standpoint. I love that. They want that three-peat. And it's already hard enough to repeat, so let alone a three-peat.
And this is a young team, and most of everybody's coming back.
It's dangerous.
Except for, I think that we're seeing the end of Chris Jones in Kansas City. I don't think they're going to be able to bring him back.
Yeah, I don't think
28 to 30 million a year.
Unless he takes a significant pay cut, I don't see him coming back either. But hey, who knows? Maybe that three-peat's big enough for him too.
Yeah. So, I mean, look what Hargrave got paid from San Francisco. I mean, you got to look at Chris Jones is going to get more than that.
I mean, maybe he gets that in a backloaded contract, and they go for it next year just to get that three-peat in.
I wanted to say that when I was talking about Kansas City. So Mahomes' restructured contract, they front-loaded all the money from 2023 to 26, so that they're basically going to pay him like $15 million a year from 2026. It's like upward, over 15, but it's like on average, it's like 15, 16, $17 million a year from 26 to 31.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, the next 2 years, the Chiefs are going to have to pay him. That's going to be the biggest of his cap hit. So they will be able to be contenders. But I just think that I think that they're, with what they have going on, I think they're going to have to part ways with Chris Jones.
They'll just restructure it and turn it into a signing bonus.
Hey man, I hope they can make it work. I would like to see a three-peat. Actually, I would like to see it just to see it happen. Even if it was another team that won 2 in a row and going for the third, I would like to see a three-peat.
I would not, but I mean, it is what it is. I cheer for the underdogs, and honestly, the Super Bowl that I want to see before I die in this life is a Cincinnati Bengals and Detroit Lions Super Bowl.
Had a feeling you'd say that one.
I want to see a Bengals and Lions Super Bowl, and both teams are really, really good right now. So I would love to see that sooner rather than later, because then I can just get that.
The script just came out. The Super Bowl is in New Orleans. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. All right, sorry.
Yeah, see, the script's out. See, Cincinnati.
Man.
Burrow and Chase. Look, I'm just saying, because if I can get that Super Bowl out of the way now, then I don't have anything else to cheer for other than Washington giving me another Super Bowl in my lifetime.
I hope Burrow comes back good from that wrist injury. I'm hearing from the what's her name, Stephania Bell. She's like a sports medicine doctor that works for ESPN. She said that there's never been a quarterback with that injury and that surgery before in the NFL. So they don't know. They don't have no timetable. They have no data to look at on how he's going to come back and affect him throwing the ball. I just hope he comes back. I hope he comes back killing it, man. I really do. I hate this.
I hope he comes back looking like Rookie of the Year. Does
yeah.
Anybody get that right?
Yeah.
You got that reference?
Yeah.
Okay.
Funky butt loving.
And then he wins it on an underhand toss. Go figure.
Yeah. Purdy had the underhand toss in the third quarter. I was like, "What kind of throw was that?"
Yeah. But you know what? That pass was disrupted because Chris Jones was being Chris Jones. I mean, that pass was even still, man, Chris Jones, dude, that guy's a beast.
Pull pay Chris Jones at the parade.
I don't have anything else, guys. I mean, it's been fun. 26 episodes, half a year.
Hey, I got one thing.
Oh shit, that's right.
Yeah,
hold on 1 second. Oh, don't say it. I'm just gonna cut right to the. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't do it.
There's a lot of things they take into account when you're talking about being viewed as a top 5 quarterback. It's not a laundry list. This is a list that it has to be taken very seriously.
Well, one final time for this 2023 NFL season. Obviously, the top 5 quarterback list has to continue to go on even in the last week, but it is not a Super Bowl list. So obviously, I told you guys I'd go back through and calculate all my numbers of who was top 5 through the entire regular season. Obviously, I still did it in the playoffs, but this top 5 list will only be the regular season, and then I'll just kind of throw in some names that were honorable mentions that barely missed out on the list. So for any of you listening, watching, I did this by going through my top 5 list, giving 5 points for the guy who finished first, 1 point for the guy who finished 5th, and tallied all those together. So here's my honorable mentions and top 5 list for the 2023 NFL season. So let's start off going from least amount of points to greatest amount of points here in the honorable mentions. So guys that didn't make it into my top 5 list, but I still think were great quarterbacks this year, were Baker Mayfield with 8 points, Patrick Mahomes with 9 points, Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow with 11 points, Josh Allen and CJ Stroud with 12 points, and my last guy missing out in this top 5 list is Jordan Love with 16 points. But let's take it on to the number 5 spot, or the number 5 quarterback for the 2023 NFL season. Number 5, Tua Tagovailoa. He finished with 17 total points over the season. And for a quarterback that people say doesn't have an NFL caliber arm, he was one of the better deep ball throwers in the league this year. Consistently threw with anticipation into empty windows. I mean, he's a 3 to 5 step drop maestro if you can keep him in rhythm. He was absolutely great this year. The interceptions were a little bit high for my liking compared to the touchdowns. But hey, there's always growth. And until obviously the playoffs, he was great. So Tua Tagovailoa finishes number 5 on my list, and moving on to the number 4 guy. Number 4, our MVP winner, Lamar Jackson. Lamar had 18 points this year. So Lamar came into the season with a new coordinator, new weapons. There was continued questions on if he could develop into a pocket passer, especially with the new coordinator, new weapons. And I think he answered the bill, especially towards the end of the season. Obviously, we know how great Lamar Jackson is in the second play. We know how great he is in running the football in general, one of the greatest scramblers we've ever seen in football. But he definitely took that next step in terms of starting to elevate receivers and start to throwing on time, being a good pocket passer, although that ended up being the demise in the playoffs. But obviously, the next step for Lamar is now to show, can you throw with anticipation, like me and Alex had said all year. Like, he needs to be able to start throwing guys open and throwing into windows. But Lamar Jackson, dominant whenever he played, and especially down the stretch, he was one of the most dominant players in football. Definitely deserved the MVP and deserves this number 4 spot in the top 5 quarterbacks of 2023. Moving on to number 3, Michael, you won't like this one. Number 3, Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys had 23 points. Dak was surgical this year. Until the playoffs, we saw a different, decisive processor who didn't necessarily make mistakes all that much. He played really, really good football until the playoffs. But obviously, what happens to Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott in general, whenever they hit the playoffs, is now where he needs to continue to elevate and improve. Dak Prescott is one of the best red zone, score zone maestros in all of the game. Most of the touchdowns he scored were in the red zone and the score zone. So he knows how to put the ball in the end zone, and hopefully that continues for Dallas's sake. And then obviously the narrative of what he does in the playoffs, like that's got to change if they want to go back and win another Super Bowl first since like 95. So, but hey, San Francisco's got the same kind of thing going on. Anyway, moving on to number 2, we got Jared Goff. Number 2 had 24 points, so beating Dak out by 1 point. Jared Goff continues to prove doubters wrong. He's in the perfect place in Detroit with Dan Campbell and the weapons that he has. I've said it over and over and over again. He's one of the best play action quarterbacks in the league, if not the best quarterback throwing out of play action in the league. He was aggressive in pushing balls downfield. He made plays look routine. Being able to hit Amon-Ra St. Brown consistently in the middle of the field, taking advantage of defenses that were vacating zones. Perfect city, perfect organization for him to flourish. And he's only going to continue to get better and continue to doubt Jared Goff because he loves it. And this Detroit Lions team loves it, and they will come back. And and as Pat McAfee says, they're the brand new Lions. But anyway, moving on to my number 1 quarterback of 2023-2024. Curtis, you're going to love this one. Ending with 35 points, Brock Purdy. So Brock Purdy is my number 1 quarterback for the 2023-2024 season. Brock Purdy consistently played well all season long. Who knows if all that's the Shanahan system? In reality, it's not. The dude actually balled. He continued to gel Shanahan really well, and he showed elite ball placement. He threw with anticipation, making right reads, keeping the offense on schedule. And then there was plenty of times that he went against the Cam Newton game manager tag that was coined about Purdy in extending plays with his legs, making plays there that most game managers or all game managers don't make, like Alex Smith has pointed out. The guy's legit. He's only in his second year, and he's been in the NFC Championship twice. Not going to say he's Tom Brady. I'm not going to say he's Patrick Mahomes because obviously, as we've seen here in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the league. And it's Patrick Mahomes and everybody else. But in terms of the play of this season, Brock Purdy was definitely the best quarterback in the NFL, at least in the regular season. And he's definitely got all the right tools to continue to elevate himself, continue to work with this offense. And I would say he's a top 10 quarterback in this league. But Brock Purdy, my number 1 quarterback for the 2023-2024 season. And then obviously come playoff time, it is the almost GOAT, Patrick Mahomes, is definitely your number 1 guy. But yeah, I mean, that's it for the 2023-2024 season. We'll definitely keep this thing rolling in 2024. Let me know if you hated this list, or let me know in the comments. We'll debate everything. But everything's backed up with film each and every week. Graded this thing out, and that's just how things rolled. So Brock Purdy won by my number 11 points. So Brock Purdy, number 1 quarterback of 2023, and we'll see you again next year.
I can't believe I almost forgot that. That's what wow. I should never have forgotten that. No, Michael, we're not talking about the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. What we're talking is this was Justin Arth's top 5 quarterbacks of the week over the course of the 26 episodes, and who ranked in his top 5, and then it was a collective point total.
To tell who the top 5 quarterbacks of this season were
based on the Arth system and not in the league, because Patrick Mahomes wasn't in that top 5, and I think Justin would be doing a disservice if Patrick Mahomes wasn't in that list. So that's what it is, Michael. It's not a discussion as far as like who the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL are. Though I would love to hear your top 5 quarterbacks by any means. You can post them right down there in the comments. Also, while you're at it, head over to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe, hit that like button, hit the little bell thingy that rings off for notifications. It's our last episode, Michael, but guess what? We will be back next year for sure. We have a draft special coming up that will talk about the draft and free agency as well, as to what to do in that sense. And I'm also sorry that you're a Cowboys fan. I'm just joking. I'm a Commanders fan. It's just friendly, bullshit.
Friendly banter.
Yeah, I don't have a hat to hang on. I mean, at least they've had a winning season and made the playoffs the last 2 seasons. So I can't say much of anything else. But Curtis, before we sign off here, man, end of the year, last episode until the little off-season special that we do later on. Do you have anything you want to add to the overall season at all? Oh, are you guys happy with the awards?
Overall,
I don't think. I think most people consensus. I don't think that Myles Garrett should have won it over Max Crosby or T.J. Watt, and I also don't think that DeMeco Ryans should have not won Coach of the Year. I think you take. I think Coach of the Year goes to DeMeco Ryans, and I think that I kind of want to see Comeback Player of the Year go to Baker Mayfield too. I don't want to see it go to Joe Flacco when he played like seven games in the season. It was great, though. I'm not trying to take anything away. I think Baker Mayfield played an entire season. He played good, and he brought the Buccaneers that nobody thought were going to get to the playoffs, and they beat the Eagles in the playoffs. But I see why Joe Flacco won. That was the most iffy one. DeMeco Ryans should have hands down won. I think Justin said he lost by one first place vote. Yeah. And I think everybody was like Max Crosby or TJ Watt. Like I don't get Myles Garrett. Garrett had a great season. I think you look at what TJ Watt did. You look at TJ Watt also drops back as a linebacker more. That's why he had interceptions. He had more forced fumbles. I just think he kind of deserved it. And that's my only thing. I think everything else was right.
Yeah, no, I mean, just kind of piggyback off of that. I think a lot of the writers' voting perspective there for their awards is more than likely like Cleveland was a top 3 defense all year, and a lot of people pointed to Myles Garrett being the reason for that. And then obviously Cleveland being what they were record-wise, being better than Pittsburgh, where TJ Watt was, and then obviously the other team not even making the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, but no, Max Crosby, I think, probably deserved to win it. TJ Watt definitely deserved to win it too. But TJ missed the final game of the season too, right? Or maybe it was a playoff game. But either way, the playoff doesn't count for their awards. So, yeah, no, overall, I'm overall happy with the awards. Maybe you can be nitpicky on some of them. I mean, Stefanski, I think, deserved it, but DeMeco Ryans deserved it more. So, yeah, overall, I just kind of understand that a lot of these awards are going to go to the best players at those specific sides of the ball on the best teams, kind of like how your Heisman Trophy is pretty much now in college football. Your best quarterback on the best teams typically get it. So, Yeah, it's just kind of how the awards go. Overall, happy with it. Now, obviously, you have your kind of Damar Hamlin got more first place votes than Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco got more second place votes. So he electoral colleged his way to the number one spot. But yeah, I mean, that can obviously be discussed more, but that's got to be discussed in NFL circles, things like that. But no, I mean, Baker, I think's truly deserving of it too. So I think we were good of having multiple guys that were very deserving, which is a year that we haven't had in a while. Guys that are multiple, 2 or 3 guys that are really deserving of this award.
Yeah, I think Baker deserved it. I would have voted for Baker myself. I understand why they went with Flacco because Baker played last year. Flacco was completely out of the NFL.
Mhm.
So that's the reason for that. Obviously, Damar, I don't think anybody's going to argue Damar, deserving of at least votes. It may not have won it, but he was definitely deserving of votes.
I mean, if every play that he played in didn't cost Buffalo, then maybe.
Right. Well, and then Stefanski, I'm actually not mad about. I actually am okay with it because they had 4 different quarterbacks this year and made the playoffs, had the number 1 ranked defense. D'Amico was really, really good, had a rookie quarterback, had a terrible team last year, led him to the playoffs as well. But he didn't have to deal with the amount of injuries and I know Stroud did get hurt for a couple of games, but he didn't have to deal with the amount of injuries of impact and significance that Cleveland had to for most of the year. Nick Chubb went down really early in the year. They had 4 separate quarterbacks. It was a whole bevy list of things.
Yeah,
that happened.
And the defense, that and the 2 rookies of the year were basically giving Houston their flowers.
Right. Yeah, and then on top of that, I Myles Garrett. Obviously, I think everybody can be in agreement that T.J. Watt or Max Crosby deserve that one. I know that there's some people making cases about MVP shouldn't have gone to Lamar. I'm kind of indifferent. I don't really care that he won it. It just was one of those things. You could have made a case for Josh Allen, in my opinion, just as much as anybody else. You could have made a case for even Patrick Mahomes, even though he had a down year by statistical standards, just because of what we saw in the Super Bowl. We know damn well how important he is to that team. So, I know that personally myself, I think CMC should have won MVP, but we don't see, non-quarterbacks really win anymore. So
not since 2012, Adrian Peterson.
Right. So that's the case. And Michael, just if you're still listening, just to close out the show, nobody's perfect. That's why Dallas Cowboys fans exist. All right. That's going to close out our show here at 2023. And again, Michael, I'm just messing with you. Playful banter. I have a Cowboys friend. He's a fan. That's the reason why I know that nobody's perfect. All right. That's it for 2023. The 2023 season is over. The NFL season is done. We will be back again. Like I said, the off-season special. 2024 season, we will be back again because I had fun. I don't know about you guys, if you guys will be back with me next year or not. I hope so. Or this year, whatever you want to call it. I certainly hope so, for sure. Justin, if you want to go ahead and take us home one last time as we head out the 2023 NFL season, and until next year, guys, or later this year, guys. So long.
Yeah. So, Michael's kind of said it all, but make sure you go smack that like button, hit the subscribe button too, if you haven't done so already, so you can stay in touch with all the great shows that we got over here. I mean, you can even go to that Niner Nuts show that went on earlier today to go reap or cry with them, whatever. But no, we got a lot of shows, got NBA stuff going on, any sports things you can think of. It's on this channel. But then obviously hit that bell notification so you never miss any of them whenever they are uploaded or when we go live, like the Goal Line Stand will here in April, whenever we do our draft and free agency special. But with that being said, that is the end of the 2023-2024 NFL season. And for the Goal Line Stand, we are out.
I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer.